Thank you for joining us today for our LD5 Dems Bottoms Up podcast. My name is Marilyn Rendon, and I'm the chair of the LD5 Democrats. Today, we're joined by Jonathon Hill, who is running for the Corporation Commission. For this podcast, we will ask the same 10 questions to every candidate. They include 5 campaign and election type questions, as well as 5 get-to-know-you questions. The goal is to give you a high-level snapshot of the candidate and their goals. The posting of this podcast will include ways you can reach out to the candidate or their campaign for more information. Born in Kingman and raised in Phoenix, Jonathon Hill has lived, studied, and worked in Tempe since 2000. Jonathon earned degrees in aerospace engineering, geological sciences, and Russian from ASU, culminating in the defense of his PhD in 2022. For the past 17 years, Jonathon has worked as an engineer and scientist at the Mars Spaceflight Facility, operating ASU's cameras on the NASA's Mars Odyssey spacecraft and the Spirit and Opportunity Mars rovers. Jonathon is running for the Arizona Corporation Commission because he believes we need commissioners with strong technical backgrounds in order to successfully and fairly regulate Arizona's utilities. And now to the questions. In 5 words, explain why you're running for office.
Well, hi, Marilyn, and thank you very much for inviting me today. I would say 5 words. Wow. Let's say technical experience and fast learner.
In your opinion, what is the greatest challenge facing people in your district or respective area in 2024 and in the coming years?
Well, as the Corporation Commission covers the whole state, I think the thing that's going to affect people the most in the coming year is utility rate increases due to inflation and due to just the growing needs of our utility infrastructure in this state as the population just continues to explode. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be worse in the summer. So hopefully everybody is as prepared as possible to see their electricity bills get really high this year.
When elected, what is the one thing you hope to achieve in your first year of office?
I would be really excited about working with the utility companies, especially the large power utilities, to find ways to increase the solar reimbursement rate that people who have solar on their homes or their properties, the rate that they get paid by the power utilities when they put excess power back on the grid. Now, I know that the utility companies don't want to pay a large amount, and they have some complaints about that power isn't very useful because it's coming at a time of day when the power usage rate is actually pretty low. But that's something I think that can be addressed with storage options, especially as those become more cost effective. And so like I said, I'd really look forward to working with them to try to find ways to benefit everybody, make it easier on them to absorb the power when it's being produced, and help the solar users at home get a larger reimbursement rate for the power they're generating and help pay off their systems.
What's your approach to building unity and navigating divisive political situations?
Well, I think that's something that's uniquely applicable to this office, the Corporation Commission, because it doesn't really matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. Nobody likes constantly increasing power bills. Everybody wants, affordable and reliable power, especially during the summer. Everybody wants clean drinking water with sufficient water pressure, which some areas of the Phoenix metro area are struggling with at the moment. So I think this office in particular is a really good opportunity to reach across that political aisle and we might have our differences in a lot of areas of policy, but I think this is one where most people can agree on what the goal is and mostly the best way to get there.
What is the one thing you want people to know about your governing style?
Well, so when I was doing my PhD at ASU, my PhD advisor had a comment that he repeated to me often as I was writing my dissertation over all those years, which was better is the enemy of good enough. And I think sometimes people on both sides of the aisle get really fixated on getting everything they want right now. And that makes it really hard for the two sides to talk. It makes really hard for the two sides to negotiate and agree on anything. And in this day and age, it's kind of a minor miracle every time we manage to agree on any little thing. So I think uh, my governing style, if elected, would be to aim to make small incremental improvements. Um, would love to make, a big sweeping improvement right up front, but that's hard to get everyone to agree to. Instead, if you just chip away at it and, make good changes now, that can start improving people's lives right now, even if it's not exactly everything you wanted.
What is your favorite thing about Arizona?
Wow, I would say my favorite thing about Arizona is the geology. And that's something I didn't really appreciate until I started, I switched over from engineering to geology. And it is remarkably varied. And it's actually surprisingly good at teaching us about Mars, which is, something I've spent the last almost 2 decades uh, doing. A lot of people don't realize, we have volcanoes up by Flagstaff. We have pieces of the mantle that are exposed down on the San Carlos Indian Reservation. Um, we have some more wonderful volcanoes right across the border in Sonora, Mexico. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Arizona has become sort of the place to go for studying Mars is because of all the great geology. Plus, you don't have plants covering up all the cool rocks.
Who has had the greatest influence on your political career?
I would have to say my grandpa, and I'd have to say that it was inadvertent. I think he was trying to get across a different point to me, but I think it still applies. He had this sentiment he would share with me a lot in various different ways. So basically, when he would see on TV, some sort of political disagreement, he would always say something to the effect of, all this politics stuff doesn't matter very much if the AC doesn't turn on. And he was, I know, intending it as a sentiment of, the value of being an engineer and keeping everything just running, just to make our daily technological lives possible. Um, but even though he lived most of his life in Arizona, I don't think, like so many others, I don't think he even really knew what the Corporation Commission did. And I think he would have found the combination of engineering and politics in this office particularly interesting and worthwhile.
What is something that most people don't know about you, but should?
Um, I would say that my pastime or my hobby has been traveling to really unique places that are really hard to get to. Um, I liked going to London. I liked, going to other places that everyone's been to. But going to the unique places are really fun. Some of my favorites are I went to the Russian spaceport in Kazakhstan. Not easy to get to. North Korea. I spent a week there touring the country. That was hard to work out. And on the top of my list for the future is Howland Island, which it actually has been in the news a little recently. It's the island where Amelia Earhart was supposed to land the day she went missing. And it's just recently in the news because there's a slight possibility they may have located the site of her crash. So yeah, that's something that I'm always in the back of my mind planning a new trip somewhere interesting.
How do you relax?
I really enjoy playing golf. Just being outside and sort of just the quiet of it. Even though sometimes it gets a little frustrating because I'm not very good. But and I admittedly I don't go as often as I should. Although I'm really looking forward to uh, if you're out in the Tempe area, the Rolling Hills Golf Course now has nighttime stadium lighting so that you can golf during the summer, but at night, so you don't bake in the sun all day. So I'm actually really looking forward to trying that out this summer.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Of all time, that's a big question. Um, I would say favorite movie of all time is it's called The Dish. Um, it's kind of a low budget Australian movie. That stars Sam Neill from Jurassic Park and Patrick Warburton from Seinfeld and a bunch of other things. And it follows along the crew that manned the large satellite dish they built in rural Australia for the moon landings. And it's sort of this kind of crazy unknown tale of, everyone around the world watched Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon in real time, but only because these four guys working at a giant antenna in the Australian outback um, solved a lot of problems and actually risked their lives to make sure that the antenna was pointed at the moon right when Neil was getting ready to set foot on the moon. So it's a really interesting story.
Thank you very much for participating with us today. We so appreciate having another high quality candidate.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to all your listeners reaching out to learn more about me and my campaign.